And we're going to move on to Simon O'Neill, who should also be online. Morena, Simon, you'll have 5 minutes with the committee today. When you're ready to make your submission, I will start the wee clock that you should see on the side. If you'd like us to ask questions, feel free to leave time. Otherwise, you may use the 5 minutes however you wish. Thank you.
Kia ora. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm ex-Army, Eastern Army officer, late 1990s, early 2000s. And the headquarters I was working in, I had oversight on the Army's Youth Life Skills program. So that was things like our contributions to Spirit of Adventure, the limited service volunteers being run in Burnham, the inaugural services academies that were started in Christchurch. One of the big lessons we learned from that work was people thought the Army was all about what you see in the movies, lots of shouting, stamping of boots. A lot of people say, oh, that's discipline, that does good things. It doesn't. It works for the Army in a very, very special environment with people who've already been through a lot of selection to get there. When we started working with these at-risk youth in Christchurch, it was apparent from day one that they had already been shouted at, and they had all of that. They didn't want or need that, and it just doesn't work. The guy we had running it was a very, very smart guy, very, very good trainer. And he identified the way ahead was to do absolutely the opposite to that, to start treating these young kids like people, to find out what's happening at the home environment. Is there a home environment? And that's what we based the whole program on, was the bigger holistic picture. What's going on around these kids? What are the real issues? How can we start to just gently engage and sort of shape that ahead? And the things that kept coming through, the driving catalysts for kids going off the rails, becoming at risk, are poverty, and that causes anger and frustration. And a lot of the time, all they're doing is lashing out. I mean, we've all been at one stage a young teenager and been really angry regardless of our backgrounds. It doesn't take much of a nudge to all of a sudden find yourself on the wrong side of the law. I'm just so against these boot camps. They're a movie fabrication. If you watch lots of movies and that's your reality, they sound like a really good idea. They just don't work. There's no evidence to support them. There's a lot of evidence that does support. If you can engage the poverty, stop the anger, stop the frustration, you can start making real changes. And that's where later on I went to work in elements like counterinsurgency, and the same messages again: stop the poverty, stop the anger, stop the frustration. And how do you do that? You do that by creating jobs. You do that by making sure that infrastructure is running. There's clean water, there's power, the sewage isn't running down the streets. Once you start to do that, you give them education, then you're opening a bit of a tunnel, putting a bit of a light in. And to me, more and more, everything that came out of what we learned was it's all about prevention. Once you get to the stage of considering boot camps, you're into the cure. And some of these kids aren't curable, I don't think. I know someone will disagree, but I think a lot of, if you can get in early, get into prevention, you can just stop this happening, and you never have to talk about doing boot camps. If you go down the boot camp path, as the other speakers before me have said, it's going to fail. It's only going to make things worse. So let's not do that. Let's look at the causes. Let's fix the causes, so we never have to do this boot camp thing. It just won't work. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Carmel, you had your hand up first.
I'll go quick so Maria Mino can get her question in too. I guess it's a bit of a surprise position really, because you're talking about having run these before. I expected you to go down the track and talk up the merit. One of the difference though, I think, from what you ran and what we're seeing here is I think they were largely volunteer. Like LSV is certainly, it's not a punitive thing. It's something that people have the option of going into. So there is a bit of a difference there.
But I think that's the critical part of it. If you force someone into doing something, they're not going to want to do it. I mean, it's almost like a Kiwi stereotype. The more you force the horse to drink, the more it doesn't want to. There's always got to be a selection process. They've got to want to be there. You can't force them to. And that's why I say sometimes you have to accept you can't save everybody.
Yeah. The other thing I just wanted to say was you talked about the causes and prevention being more important than having a cure, even though I do believe that some of these kids, you know, they are not, we can't write them off. But the causes, what needs to happen there. And then answer quickly so Maria Menor can get her question in before she gets cut off.
Quick, easy thing. In this current New Zealand, stop putting people out of work.
Yeah.
Unemployment creates problems.
Thank you very much.
Real quickly, Madamino.
Oh, just actually, Carmel you had my thinking in hand, but just to you, Simon, your angle and your expertise and your credentials, I do hope that gets understood better in this forum. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, Simon.